In this video, we'll be learning about Identity and Access Management, IAM. I am Chris St. John, founder of SystemsArchitect.io and CodeGuides.io. Identity is the new perimeter in cloud environments. Every API call, console login, and service-to-service request relies on an identity to decide access. One compromised credential or overly permissive role can expose the whole estate, and IAM misconfigurations remain a top cause of cloud breaches. This checklist covers 10 high-impact practices across AWS, Azure, and GCP. 1. Enforce MFA everywhere. 2. Use short-lived credentials. 3. Prefer roles over permanent keys. 4. Implement just-in-time access. 5. Remove dormant accounts quarterly. 6. Audit privilege escalation paths. 7. Centralize identity with federation. 8. Log all authentication events. 9. Use passwordless when possible. 10. Never hard-code credentials. First, enforce multi-factor authentication everywhere for human access to console, CLI, and API with no convenience exceptions. Does multi-factor authentication really matter? Microsoft reports multi-factor authentication blocks the vast majority of automated credential attacks. Without it, one phished password is full access. By the way, this article is a condensed version of the complete article on blog.systemsarchitect.io. See the full blog article and solutions on the systemsarchitect.io. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Check the video notes for links. Prefer phishing-resistant methods like FIDO2 hardware keys or passkeys for admins. Time-based one-time passwords are better than nothing, but can still be proxied in real time. Service accounts that cannot use multi-factor authentication need IP limits, short credential life, and aggressive monitoring. On AWS, protect root immediately. Deny actions without multi-factor authentication via service control policies, and use Identity Center with FIDO2 for federated users. On Azure, conditional access and authentication strengths mandate multi-factor authentication, with security defaults as a free baseline and dual FIDO2 keys offline for break glass accounts. On GCP, enforce two-step verification org-wide, restrict superadmins to security keys, and prefer workload identity federation over long-lived service account keys. Second, use short-lived credentials. Permanent API keys and static passwords stay valid until someone notices. Short sessions expire in minutes to hours and shrink the blast window. Keys leaked in Git have been exploited within minutes. Design apps and pipelines to fetch fresh credentials per session, not cache forever keys. Use roles and metadata for compute, and OIDC federation from GitHub Actions or GitLab CI so CI/CD never stores cloud secrets. On AWS, STS assume role with short max session duration, Lambda execution roles, and configure AWS AG approach credentials with OIDC for 15-minute tokens. On Azure, managed identities acquire and refresh tokens automatically with no secret to rotate. On GCP, workload identity for GKE and federation for external workloads hand out short tokens. Local development can use short-lived application default credentials. Third, prefer roles over permanent keys. What makes a static key risky? Every static access key is a liability that may sit years without rotation. Audit credential reports for keys older than 90 days and migrate holdouts like CI/CD third parties and legacy apps to roles, federation, or managed identities. On AWS, instance profiles, Lambda execution roles, and ECS task roles via IMDS version 2 only Cross-account with assume role and external ID, never shared keys. On Azure, system or user assign managed identities with default Azure credentials, so the same code works in cloud and local fall-through. On GCP, impersonate service accounts instead of downloading key files, and org policy to disable service account key creation entirely. Fourth, implement just-in-time access. Standing production admin is a 24/7 target. Elevate only when needed for a fixed duration with approval and audit trail. Tier access. Break glass with 2 approvers and short max hours. Production admin with 1 approver and time-boxed self-serve read-only. Keep the workflow under 5 minutes so engineers do not demand permanent rights. On AWS, Identity Center permission sets with automation that grants then deletes assignment after timeout, plus native temporary elevation where available. On Azure, privileged identity management makes roles eligible, activates with multi-factor authentication and justification, and expires within 1 to 24 hours. On GCP, privileged access manager entitlements with approvers and automatic expiry fully logged in cloud audit logs. Fifth, remove dormant accounts quarterly. Why hunt for dormant accounts? Human and service identities with no sign-in for 90 days keep permissions without legitimate traffic that would make abuse obvious. Former employees, finished projects, and abandoned proofs of concept are classic dormant risk. Report inactive accounts each quarter, disable first cycle, delete second if unclaimed, and tag service accounts with owner and project at creation. On AWS, credential reports and config unused credentials checks, plus access analyzer for unused roles. On Azure, access reviews that auto-remove when reviewers do not respond, with sign-in logs retained or exported for longer history. On GCP, IAM recommender for unused service accounts, cloud identity last sign-in reports, and policies that stop new service account sprawl on completed projects. Sixth, audit privilege escalation paths. Sixth, permissions compose into unintended admin. Create function plus attach admin role, or pass role plus run instances, effectively becomes assume that role. These are design consequences, not platform bugs, and Rhino Security Labs alone cataloged many AWS paths. Scan monthly with tools like PackU or PMapper on AWS, Azure Hound on Azure, and IAM analysis on GCP. Focus on create or modify IAM and secret-read combos. Search for owner-level bindings org-wide and constrain external identity domains where possible. Seventh, centralize identity with federation. Separate user databases per cloud, create inconsistent grants and incomplete offboarding. One IDP disable should revoke everywhere within minutes via SAML or OIDC plus SCIM provisioning. Pick one canonical directory, federate each cloud, and test end-to-end offboarding under 15 minutes. On AWS, Identity Center maps IDP groups to permission sets with automatic deprovision. On Azure, Intra as hub or relying party with lifecycle joiner mover leaver workflows and access packages. On GCP, Workforce Identity Federation maps external attributes to short-lived credentials without inventing parallel Google users for every employee. Eighth, log all authentication events. Successes, failures, multi-factor authentication challenges, token refresh, and sessions are the earliest signals of theft or brute force. Ship logs to your SIEM in real time, alert on impossible travel, failed and success, odd hours, and concurrent sessions from distant IPs. Keep at least a year for compliance and 90 days hot for investigations. On AWS, CloudTrail captures console login and assume role style events across org trails with insights for volume anomalies. On Azure, intra-sign-in logs include device, location, multi-factor authentication method, conditional access result, and risky sign-in detections. On GCP, admin activity and optional data access and policy denied logs sunk to BigQuery for long analysis. Ninth, use passwordless when possible. Why go passwordless? No password means no phishing, stuffing, or reuse of that secret. FIDO2 passkeys and certificates replace something you know with something you have or are. Roll out in phases, security first, then engineering, then everyone. Keep password fallback only during transition and measure adoption. On AWS, passwordless IDP plus Identity Center FIDO2 completes a no password path into accounts. On Azure, FIDO2, Windows Hello, authentication strength for admins, temporary access pass for onboarding, and certificate-based auth for high security. On GCP, security-key only two-step verification and advanced protection for critical users. Workload identity is already passwordless machine auth. 10th, never hardcode credentials. Secrets in source, baked invars, or image layers bypass multi-factor authentication and audit because the raw key is the whole identity. Use pre-commit scanners like GitLeaks or TruffleHog, plus platform secret scanning on push. If something leaked, rotate first, then hunt history. On AWS, Secrets Manager or Parameter Store by ARN, injected into ECS and Lambda without embedding values. On Azure, Key Vault with default Azure credential and App Service Key Vault references that resolve at runtime. On GCP, Secret Manager versions for code, CSI mounts on GKE and Cloud Run secret bindings. To close, multi-factor authentication everywhere plus short-lived roles instead of permanent keys cut the two biggest IAM attack paths: stolen passwords and leaked long-lived API keys. Just-in-time elevation and quarterly dormant cleanup shrink standing privilege and forgotten accounts. Federation and full auth logging give one control plane for offboarding and detection across clouds. Passwordless authentication and secret managers keep passwords out of the flow and secrets out of the repo. Those 10 practices make identity a hardened perimeter on AWS, Azure, and GCP, not a soft door into the estate. Well, that does it for now. Hope you got something out of this video. Find a lot more articles and guides on both systemsarchitect.io and codeguides.io. That's systemsarchitect.io and codeguides.io.